Hi guys, my name is Amos Dsouza and welcome back to the channel. This is part 4 in the ongoing Godot tutorial series wherein I help y'all make your first game without having any prior game development experience. If you haven't seen the previous parts, I highly recommend you to do so. The playlist is linked down below in the description. And if you're interested in what type of game we are making, check out the game I made in 10 minutes video wherein I made a game in 10 minutes as the title says, and that's what we are recreating in this series. So strap on and let's just jump right into this. So in the last video what we did was, if I play the game, we finished programming the player, which when you press space it will jump, and if you're in air you can't double jump. So we have coded in such that the player is whenever he's on the ground he can just press jump and then he'll go up. Okay, so now after that's done, what we need is the enemy. Okay, so when we are making this enemy, I'll illustrate it. So what we need to do is we need to make the enemy, which will be the red box, because it's the one which I use in making the game. Okay, and this will be our enemy. Okay, so how the player has a collision on him, the enemy too will have a collision on him. Whenever the player comes in contact with this collision, we will get a signal, right? So suppose this is the player. Okay, and let me just pick this color so that we are relevant with the collisions, and this is the collisions for the player, right? This is what we did in the last part. Okay, and so what we are going to do is we are going to make this enemy move across the screen, and the player has to jump to avoid this enemy. Okay, so suppose the player does not jump, there will be collision, and then we can say that yes, the player has collided with the enemy, which is against the game loop, and we can say that the player has failed or something like that. Okay, but if the player, so suppose the enemy comes close, and if the player jumps over the enemy, okay, and the enemy just goes by, okay, we need a way to figure out a way to get the enemy. So the player has jumped over the enemy, so we need a way to get this enemy back to the start and then repeat the whole process again. So that is what we are going to do in this video. So let's just jump back to Godot. Okay, we are back into Godot now, and you can go up here and click to add a new scene. Okay, since we are going to make the enemy a separate scene, and we can import this scene into our main scene, and I'll show you how to do it. Okay, so we don't want this scene to start with a 2D node or node 2D, but we need this to be starting with a area 2D, because this is just the enemy. This is not the main area, this is just the enemy, and this will be imported into main, okay, into this scene. So I will show you all that. So you can just click other node and then search for area 2D, since we need the enemy to detect collision. So as you can see, 2D area for detection and collision and 2D physics influence. Okay, so this will give us an output whenever the player enters it, and this is what we need. Okay, so let's add, and we'll have the same error which we had before, which it says the node has no shape, consider adding collision shape 2D. So before that, we're going to rename this area 2D to enemy. Okay, and I'll just zoom right in, and let's add a sprite, or as we did the ground, we can add a color rect. just to have some pixels displaying on the screen. Okay, so we're going to click the enemy, and we're going to, instead of clicking this plus icon, we can also do is Control A, and it will add the color, it will add your node. So if we go down to recents, we can see color rect, and then we're just going to add color rect into the scene. So now you can see the color rect is not centered on the axis, which is 0 0, but it is off centered, right? So I'll show you what happens if this is the case when we import it, because we need these tiles to be centered like so. But right now I won't be precise at it if I do it manually. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down to margin, okay, and as you can see, right it says 40 and bottom it says 40. So it is 40 in the right direction and it is 40 in the down direction. So to balance this out, what we're going to do is we're going to add negative values for left and top, and that will center out the sprite. So let me just do it, and as you can see, it centers out the sprite at 0 0. This is very important because when we when we add different scenes to our main scene, that is called instancing, and whenever it instance, it will always instance from 0 0. So it is very important to keep all your sprites at 0 0. So the next thing is Alicia, virus. Begin. There, Bongar. Okay. The next thing what we are going to do is we're going to add the collisions to remove this triangle. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the enemy and we're going to do Control A, and if we go down here we can see collision shape in recents, so we can just click create and it will add the collision shape. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to shape under inspector and click add and new shape, new rectangle, and then now you have to zoom into this, right? But if you do it freehand, it won't be precise. So if you are looking for something precise, what you can do is you can click the rectangle down here, and you know the surface area, means this whole white box is 40 by 40. So what you can do is you can just add the numbers in right here, and now it is perfect collision. Okay, so now I'm going to put the collision behind the color rect so that the color rect appears in front, and I'm going to change the enemy color to a red. Okay, so once we are done, we're going to hit Ctrl S to save the scene, and as you can see down here, file name enemy.tscn, which is important. Okay, and we're going to click save. Okay, once that's done, we're going to come back to main, and when main is selected, as you can see next to plus icon, you can see something known as attach symbol, which says instance a scene file as a node. So we're going to click that and we're going to instance our enemy scene. So as you can see, the enemy scene instance itself, and you can see this box appears right here, this film kind of thing, and if we click that, it will take us back to our enemy scene. So what we're going to do is we can now hit W on our keyboard and move this enemy, and while using shift we can use it, and I'm going to write it down this way, and as you can see it shifts properly. Suppose if we don't have this enemy, so let me show you. Suppose if this enemy was something like this, okay, if I save, now if I re-import, if I reset its transform, it will be offsetted like that, which we don't want because we want it to detect everything from its center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset the transform over here of area 2D, reset to 0 0, and save the scene, and it should automatically update here. Okay, so we're going to, so right now the enemy looks kind of big. So what we can do is, without editing anything here in this enemy scene, what we can do is we can edit this node which we instance in main. So we're going to go down to transform, and we can see scale, and I want this enemy to be narrower in the y dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease little on x 0.8, and I'm going to say 0.5 for the y. And now you can see the enemy changes dimension, but everything works fine when it is on its original scene. Okay, so now we're going to select the enemy, and we're still in move tool. Okay, we're going to drag the enemy to somewhere like so, and we're going to just round out these numbers in the transform. So we're going to say 1100 and 340. Okay, just to keep whole numbers. Okay, so right now we have the enemy done, and if we try and play it, it won't move because we haven't attached any scripts at it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the enemy, and we're going to go up here and click create new script, and enemy.gd is fine, and I'm going to click create. Okay, we're going to close this left panel by hitting this arrow key, arrow button right down here, and we won't okay, we'll keep that ready for now, but we're going to delete these comments. Okay, and we will be using function process. So I'll keep that, and I'll delete this thing. Okay, so what we need is the enemy is going to keep moving, right? So suppose the enemy is here, and we want to take note of this position, so that whenever the enemy crosses this left side of the screen, so let me just draw the screen. Okay, oh god, so suppose this is a screen, okay, and the enemy spawns outside the screen and it comes inside. Okay, so it spawns here and then it comes inside, and once it exits the screen, we want this enemy to come back to its position, right, and then continue the process again. So we need a way or a variable to store this spawn position. So we're going to jump back to Godot, and I'll show you how to do that. So we are back in enemy scene or the enemy script, and if you want to store, so if you go in 2D, and if you want to add like a variable right here in inspector from which we can access from the script, what you can do is you can type export, and we need to export means it will show up in the editor. Okay, and we need a vector2 which will hold the position of the enemy. So we're going to do vector2, if I can type properly, like so, and then we're going to say it will be a variable spawn position or pos as short, and it will be a vector2, an empty vector2. Okay, and I think we don't need this ready right here. So what we are going to do is we're going to add another node to our enemy scene. So this node is a quite interesting one, so we're going to click Ctrl A, and we're going to search for visibility notifier. Okay, detects when the node is visible on screen. So that's your description for this node. So we're going to use visibility notifier, not enabler, the first one. Okay, now what this node does is, as you can see this pink box right here, so it will detect whenever the enemy or this sprite, this pink box appears on the screen or moves out of the screen. So if we come to this node panel right here, wherein we have signals, we can see screen entered, screen exited, viewport entered, viewport exited. So these are called as signals, which we can which Godot gives you whenever these events happen. Okay, so like if you hover over them, it will say emitted when visibility notifier exits the screen. Okay, so what we can do is we can click on that, okay, because we need screen exited, and then we're going to go to connect, and then whichever node has a script attached to it, we can connect this output to that node. Okay, So right now we have a script attached to enemy, so we're going to connect it to enemy. Okay, and then you'll get this function wherein whenever this visibility or whenever our enemy exits the screen, this function will run, or whatever any code in this function will run. So what we are going to do is we're going to use this transform from node 2D, okay, position. So if you hover over it, you can see property position and position relative to the node's parent. Okay, so we can use this property and adjust it in code. So what we're going to do is position, that is the position of the enemy, is equal to spawn position. Okay, so whenever the enemy exits the screen, we're setting the position equal to spawn position. Okay, so what we're going to do in process.delta process is we're going to add some value to the position in the x direction. Oh no, we're going to subtract, because we're going in the negative x direction. So what we're going to do is position dot x, which is the x direction, minus equals some value, suppose say 5. Now keep in mind this happens every frame, so we should have 5 times delta. Okay, and it will be constant on every PC, otherwise this thing it will run faster on faster computers and it will move slow on slower computers. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a variable called speed equal to 100, and we're going to change this to speed like so. Okay, and now if we save this scene, okay, and come back to main, if we click enemy, okay, we have script variables which says spawn position right here. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to scroll down and we're going to copy over this locations into this variable. Oh no, not that. Escape, copy and paste it in Y. Okay, so now we have our spawn position, and suppose we run this screen right here, the enemy will come and it will come. I have to increase the speed, and it will just go through the player because it's an area 2D. But whenever it exits the screen, it will spawn back over to the point which is specified, and we'll keep on doing this over and over again. So if you want to, we can also do is we can export the speed variable and we can edit this on the go, as you can see right here. So we are going to set it to 500 and then click play, and as you can see, the enemy is much faster this time. But right now, if the player does not jump, the enemy does not do anything. So we are going to keep that for the next episode, wherein we are going to detect collisions and how we use signals. In today's video, we are going to detect signals or emit our own signals and make the whole player dying scene and all that stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next part in this series wherein I help you make your first game. So if you think this is informative, you can share it to your friend, and I will catch you all guys in the next one. Goodbye.